Hi, it's Lori from Coast to Coast Craft Girls, coming to you from the West Coast. Today I wanted to share two cards that are made almost identically. They're using the same die, the same stencil, the same inks. I made the backgrounds. This is the original one, and then this is using basically the ink off the stencil after I was done stenciling that one. I embossed with the stencil to get the ink off and to give it a nice textured look. So let me show you how they're made. Okay, so I'm going to start with some background ink, and I've just got two pieces of card that are 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. They're just under 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, but and I'm just going to put the same. I'm going to put the same background blend of ink on these, and this is watercolor card, and I've got mint chocolate or mint chalk and Pool fresh dye inks, and I'm going to put these just on my glass mat. With some water. I'm going to start with the mint, and I'm just going to kind of smush. I just want to get a little bit of color on the background because I don't want it to be white. So we're just going to kind of mop up that ink. I'm going to set that one to one side and do it again on the second piece of card. But you always want to get the water off your mat before you put your ink pad into it. You can use a craft mat. I just happen to have a glass mat, so this works well. Okay, so see, I just got a little bit of ink. Now I'm going to put the Pool down. I can get it open. I'm going to put some water. Looks pretty good. Just kind of look for spots that are still too white for me. I'll try and pick up a little more ink. And that looks pretty good. You can see that one's just a little bit darker than the other. That's quite all right, not a problem. I am gonna dry this one with my heat gun for just a second. Okay, so this one's mostly dry. The other one I just left because I kind of want it to be a little bit damp. But I'm gonna take this one, and I'm gonna take my stencil, and I've got the Altenew Dancing Drops stencil. And I'm just going to put this over, just, so it's basically covering. And let's see, I am going to tape that from the back. I thought I could just hold on to it, but I think I better tape it just to help hold it a little bit. You could use a sticky mat. I just didn't get mine out today. And then I've got azurite and a nice blending tool. And I'm just going to blend through my stencil with this dark blue. I want to get a good amount of ink on there. But I also don't care that I don't want it to be, solid dark blue, like really harsh dark blue. I just want to get a good amount of ink on there. And you can see where the card's wet, it's getting a nice texture. I actually like that. I didn't dry it completely for exactly that reason. Okay, that looks pretty good. Peel that stencil off. And there's my first background. I'm going to set that to one side. Now, here's where you get the 2-for-1. So I'm going to take my cutting plates, and I've got, this is an Anna Griffin Empress machine, and so I've got my A plate and my metal shim, and then a scrap piece of paper. And I am going to put my stencil with the ink on it on there. And actually, yeah, I can do it that way. Because this is just a scrap piece of card. It's just actually a piece of copy paper. Let me get my stuff out of the way though, because I don't want it. And I'm gonna spritz this all up because I want that ink to be nice and wet. And now I'm gonna take my inked card and I'm gonna put it face down into that ink. Then I've got another piece of scrap card. I put it over the top, and then I've got my embossing mat and my other A plate, and I'm going to run this through my Empress. Now you can do this with any cutting machine. This is just the one that I have. Let me get this stuff out of the way. I might put my mess a little bit. And when I peel this up, so there's my scrap card. Get that out of the way. There's my background. And my stencil's pretty much clean. And then actually, if you used just a regular piece of, not a piece of scrap card or, you know, scrap paper, but an actual piece of card, that's actually kind of a cool background. I should have done that. I would have saved that. But it's one way to clean your stencils and get a cool background effect. And now, I don't know if you can see, but the little droplets are actually embossed. They're raised up. You can see it maybe better on the back side. But you've got that dark blue ink around the edges that came off the stencil, and you've got a nice emboss. And I'll show you the two side by side here. So you've got one that's just kind of a nice dark background and one that's very muted and soft. And then you can go in and add other ink to it, but I actually kind of like the way it is. I might do just a little bit of dark ink around the edges on both of them, just because I do like to kind of frame. I do like to kind of frame my piece. I think it's almost like fake matting, you know, by putting just that little bit of dark edge all the way around. And if you move spin your card on your blending mat instead of, you know, moving your inking around, kind of keep all the ink in one spot, which just makes it easier to clean up. And you can pick up that ink off the mat to use. Yeah, I do like that a little bit better. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it on here or not. I may just do it very lightly. You can see I'm mostly moving my brush on the glass mat, not on the card. I'm just touching the edge of that card. And you can see the difference between here and here. It just kind of gives it a nice a nice border, a nice edge. And that's why I do it. Okay. Now I've got just a white card base that I'm going to mount these on. Then for my flower on the top, I cut the Altenew Water Lily layering die set, and I cut the leaves and stuff out of this green. And then I've got my center. And then I cut 2 of the little buds out of white. Get them up here. And this is a white shimmer card. Cut 2 of those out of white, and I cut all the rest of the petals out of that same white shimmer card. Now I am going to ink these just a little bit. I've got a fresh lemon that I'm going to use on all of the white. And basically I'm just going to kind of go from the center out towards the ends of the petals, but I don't want to go all the way to the end. I don't want it to be solid yellow. I want it to be mostly white, but just that hint of yellow in the middle. I'm going to use a hunter green and just give these some shading so that it's not that. I think that this color green, it's kind of a Kelly green or whatever you want to call it. It's just too flat for me if you don't give it some shading. So I'm just going to go down the middle. And just try to, and you can see the embossed lines in the, that the die puts in, and I'm going to try and get some ink on those to just kind of highlight those lines. And then a little bit of, also on my stems from my the stems from my buds here. It's like that. Doesn't have to be perfect, just a little bit of color. Now I'm going to build my flowers. I'll start with my large flower, and it's the keyhole system. So just line up the holes. When I first cut this one, I thought I actually cut it off the paper or something, because this little keyhole is only partial, but it's actually supposed to be like that, which I realized after I started gluing it together. And see, the same with this one. It's just a little partial. And that is the way it's supposed to be. But it's still enough of it that you can line it up. And then the last one just covers up the keyhole system. Just like that. Okay, so there's my flower, and that's going to go on my leaf. But first, this piece goes on the leaf. Just down here to kind of give it a little bit like it's folding over. Honestly, you could probably leave it off because my flower's going to cover up most of that anyway. And it just gives it a little bit of a look of folding over. Oop, I forgot to put my centers on. Darn it. I'm gonna have to take this apart. Don't do what I did. follow the directions. I forgot to put my centers in. Thankfully, my wet glue was still wet enough that I could get it apart. Put those in, and then I'll have to, it ripped a little bit, but it'll be okay. There. Yeah. Not quite as good as the other one, but it's fine. And then I'm going to put my little bud together, or the two little buds together. And these don't have keyholes, but they just kind of stack on top of each other, and it's fairly obvious because the shapes match. And whenever I'm doing these flowers, and the reason I missed that center is because I usually line them up. So these are in order. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. And I had the petals all in order, but I did not have the centers in the line. And that's why I forgot them. So okay, go back to my card blank, and I'm going to put my flower on there. So I've got my little lily pad and my water lily, and then I've got my 2 buds that are going to go on there, just about like that. And then I cut the sentiment that comes with that die set, and I cut it in white and then yellow and then the shimmer white, and I layered them all up with just a little bit of a drop shadow. That one I got a little off, and I'm just going to put that right up here in the corner like that. And then I'm going to do the other card exactly the same way, but using the other background. So let me put this together and I'll be right back with you. And there we go. There's my 2 cards using the same die set, the same sentiment, the same stencil, the same inks, just using a slightly different process. So this one is the one that I inked the dark blue through the stencil. And then this is the one that I picked up all the ink that was left on the stencil and embossed with my die cutting machine. I think I actually like this one better. And this is just kind of using basically it's cleaning my stencil, but creating a nice background with that clean stencil. So anyway, thanks for watching.